Okay, this is the Gift of Gabs podcast, and today's guest is Ashley Spitsnogle from Elkhorn, Nebraska. She's an artist that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. So I've followed you on LinkedIn and looked at your work, and now I have one in my apartment. So
Yeah.
tell everybody just a little bit about your background. I I read the Omaha Magazine article, so
hmm
I know a little bit, but
hmm
tell them a little more about you.
Yeah. So I am from Odell, Nebraska. So a small town south of Beatrice, town about 300. I graduated Diller Odell High School and then went to Doane College. And then at Doane, I had an emphasis in painting and drawing. So that's kind of when I started focusing a little more on art. And then when I graduated from Doane, I studied in Italy for a month. It was like an intense month where every other day we would go on location. And for 8 hours, we'd paint. One day we'd go back, critique, and then the next day would be painting for 8 hours on location. So I would say when I got back from there is when I really decided I wanted to pursue art as a career, a full career, not just a
Mhm.
hobby. And so that kind of did my own art shows for a long time with my family support. And then eventually came in this gallery, which Main Street Studios, an art gallery downtown Elkhorn. I've been here for over 7 years now. And during that time is when I got licensed for Husker Art because of a live painting for Teammates Mentoring. So that's kind of a short or quick version of
Um,
what's kind of leading up to now.
so where in Italy did you go?
So I was in Florence.
Okay,
Yep,
that
it
makes
was
more
it
sense.
was an international grad program that
Mhm.
actually one of the art professors at Doane got me connected with. So it
Oh,
was
that's
right out
cool.
of college and that following summer. So
Yeah, I've never been to Italy. I've been to France and Scotland and England, and but I'd like to go to Italy. The ones on my list really are Italy, Spain, and Ireland. Those are the three I'd like to go to.
I
Uh,
could go to Italy every single year and be happy.
Yeah, I had one of my best friends who I've known since we were 13 years old. He's gone a few times, and I think he wanted to retire there, but
Yeah.
his wife didn't really want to do that with grandkids here and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah, it's art and wine and
yeah,
pasta. So it just
yeah,
speaks all to my heart.
yeah. I could do the pasta and the art. I don't know about
Yeah.
the wine.
Oh yeah, I
I,
love
I was
wine.
drunk one time in my life and didn't feel good the next day and never did it again. So
Oh,
uh,
well.
so, I don't know if that's so when you initially went to Doane, was your plan not necessarily to do this full time?
Well, so when I picked a major, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in at first. I actually chose Doane to play basketball. So
Oh,
that's why I
okay.
picked Doane. And also just the campus. I think the campus is beautiful. The ratio from professor to student, there was a lot of reasons why I picked Doane, but I went there primarily for basketball. And then I got some art scholarship with it and then had to pick a major. So I liked art the best at the time, but I don't think when I went to college that I thought I could actually have do something other than graphic design, do actual fine art. So
Right.
I didn't see a lot of other artists or didn't know of a lot of other ones in the area locally. And so I don't know if I went into college with the intention to be a painter, but that's how it kind of progressed, or how it kind of different opportunities allowed me to be able to paint and
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to make a living as an artist.
yeah,
Uh, I mean, I always my ex-wife is an artist, and she never really tried to make a living doing it. She did sell some paintings and stuff, but she was very meticulous, and it would take a long time to get a painting done. And so
hmm
yeah, I don't know if you really ever get paid for your time.
yeah.
It's just doing something that you love to do. In and my dad was the same. My dad was an auto genius. I mean, he could do anything with a car, and he was always
hmm
working on cars and stuff.
Which
And
is creative. That's a
yeah,
creative, yeah.
yeah, and he didn't really get paid what he should probably for it, but But
Yeah.
we had when I was a little kid, I remember, I don't, this is off topic, but just real quick, I went to see the Ford versus Ferrari movie when it came out. And then I went on YouTube and watched some documentaries about it. And in the documentary, there were two or three guys that I remember seeing at our house when I was a little kid. You know,
Oh yeah.
he was pretty well connected with other racers and stuff like that. So, but it's really cool that you can do this and make enough of a living, to continue doing it. I went, for those of you that don't know, I went to the gallery last week, and it's five artists. Is that what you have
A
down there?
six, I think
Six,
now.
yeah. It's really cool because everybody sort of works in different mediums and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm
I would,
still,
I would, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm still working on getting the print framed that I got from you last
Mm-hmm.
week, but
Yeah.
it's really nice. I've shown it to a bunch of people. I just don't have it hanging up yet.
Well,
So
thank you. Yeah, I would say that that there's a lot of different pieces to be able to make money as an artist. Like I don't only just paint.
mhm,
Um, the Josh Yoder book that I illustrated, that's for foundation for water safety. That's a whole area of making some money there, here and there, and then
right,
connections, meeting people. And then live painting is a whole nother thing where maybe I don't make a lot of money at the time, but I am marketing in front of people and showing them what
mhm,
I can do without having to talk about it. And then I have the Husker, like, so it's not, I'm not just painting landscapes, or I'm not just painting Husker art, or I'm not just painting. There is a lot of different, if one's not working, I focus in another area, because
right,
sometimes people don't want to buy abstract art, but sometimes people do. So or
yeah,
Husker art, or so I would definitely say that it's more than just one avenue. There's a lot of different places to go, and also social media. That takes a lot of time to make the time lapse video, or to make the videos, to
yeah,
respond to people, to make sure, oh, I haven't posted on LinkedIn in a while, which I should be better about. That's also a huge part of, outside of actually painting.
right. And that's the thing for me. I mean, I just started this maybe 6, 7 weeks ago, and that's been my learning curve, is the social media part of it. I've got to get better at, posting and getting things up there daily, but
Very time consuming.
one of the things that really caught my attention with you was the time lapse things that you
Mhm.
have up on LinkedIn. I thought those are really cool. But
Thank
I
you.
read in the magazine article, it said something about you doing a live painting at a Husker event when you first started working with
Well,
them.
it was for teammates mentoring. And,
Right.
and so Tom Osborne was there. And so I painted a picture of Tom and Brooke Behringer. So I painted it live in front of Tom. And then that's actually the kind of the first time I met Tom. And
Uh-huh.
then after that, put it on social media. And then that's when enough people reached out, including family members and friends of Brooks. And so I ended up getting licensed because of that
Well,
painting.
that's
So I
really
didn't
cool.
actually go into it with the intention of I didn't go into painting that with intention of being licensed. It just kind of
Yeah.
naturally happened because of the response from people.
Right. See, I think that that kind of stuff happens a lot. I think
Hmm.
I did when I was at Shadron State. I had always in the back of my mind wanted to do some stand-up comedy,
Hmm.
and so I asked the activities director of the school, could I do one? And we
Hmm.
just opened a new student center, and she was worried that nobody would show up, and and this is a small town, and I said, well, I can require my students go. and
Yeah. You're like, we can force people.
but we ended up, Shadron was about 2,500 students at the time, and the town was about 5,000, and we ended up with 550 people showing up. And we raised some money for a homeless kitchen. But
Hmm.
what happened as a result of that, though, was there were a lot of business people there, and I started getting calls to do like a luncheon or an annual meeting, or
Hmm.
so it ended up, I was just going to do it as a one-time thing, and I ended up doing it for like 10 years. But
Yeah.
never full time, like you're doing. This is a little braver than what I was doing. I had a job to fall back on, And because I remember one of the students asking me the next day, he said, "Were you nervous?" And I said, "Well, I have a job. I mean, if it bombs, it doesn't matter." So, but yeah, I think those kinds of things, you never know what's going to happen.
And I think taking from taking opportunities when they present themselves, and for me, when things feel right or they feel organic or there's something that, like, I was a teammate's mentor for a long time. That's something I really enjoyed. So that was very personal to me to have that first painting be at a teammate's mentoring event.
Yeah,
And then I'm a genuine Husker fan. And so when I'm painting them and then being able to connect with people that are Husker fans as well, and my family are big Husker fans. And I think it's all just kind of organically happened, and certain opportunities from that painting. Then I was asked to paint another picture at an event
mhm,
for the Heartfelt Ink, which is for families who have lost children. And that was the one of Salmon Brook. So
yeah,
that happened because of this other one. And it's just, yeah, just kind of taking the opportunities, and also when they just feel good, and it just happens naturally. So
yeah, yeah. And I have met Tom Osborne uh, a long time ago when I worked at Shadron. The criminal justice professor there, was Tom's brother-in-law, and so
mhm,
he come out occasionally. And I met him at some kind of luncheon thing there or something. Yeah,
mhm,
he was really nice. But and I've kind of I'm not a, you said you're a longtime Husker fan. I grew up in Michigan, so
mhm,
I was a Michigan fan, but
mhm.
I've always been a volleyball fan. So when I moved here, this is maybe the best place in the country to live if you're a
Or yeah,
volleyball fan. Because I'm going to go tonight against Stanford,
that's
and
gonna be a good one.
but I'm starting. I told my friends last weekend because they grew up here, and they are diehard Husker fans, and so I told them that I'm ready to jump on the bandwagon for football. So
There's
uh,
just something, I don't know. Have you been to any of the football games?
I've only been to one, and I'd like
There's
to go to some, but yeah, it's a good atmosphere.
Yeah, there's just something kind of, they have a lot of traditions and the energy of people before the game with the band and
Mhm.
tailgating and walking to the game. And then you go in the game, and then they have the marching band, and then they do the tunnel walk. And then
Yeah,
they just have some really cool aspects to it, where it's a full day of just, I feel like people are just happy, and
right.
you're high-fiving strangers, and you're
Yeah,
yelling, and it
I,
really enjoy it.
I've been to games all over the country. I had a friend that was in the NFL and went to some of his away games, and I'll tell you what separates it for me here that really stands out that I haven't seen. The only other place I've seen close to it is Minneapolis, is that the people, the fans here are nice to the opposing fans.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not like that everywhere.
So
It's not like that at Michigan games.
well, I was going to say, so you're a Michigan fan. So last year I went to the Michigan game, and
Mhm.
which we all knew that it was not going to be a good game. Like, we knew
Right.
Michigan was going to roll over us, but we went, and I sat by these Michigan fans, and they were telling me how they want, every single time Michigan plays at Nebraska, they want to come and they want to tailgate because they had the best time. They walked around, they got invited in for food, for drinks, like
Mhm.
they just had the best things to say about the fans. And I don't know, they just were like, every single year that we play at Nebraska, we're coming to the game and we're
Yeah.
going to go to tailgates. So that
Yeah.
was cool to hear.
The only place I've ever been that's kind of close to it was my friend played a couple years in Green Bay, and I went to a game against the Vikings in Minnesota
Hmm.
wearing a Green Bay hat. And people were really nice to me, and I'd done the same thing in Kansas City, and they were horrible. I mean, they were
Yeah.
really rude. And I mean, I root for Kansas City now just because I like the players they have,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a different atmosphere, and volleyball is the same way. I mean, volleyball,
Hmm.
they'll the fan, especially like on the 29th alley, Batenhorst is coming back with USC, but anytime they have a former player or a
Hmm.
player's sister on the other team, they always get a really huge. ovation,
Yep.
it's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Yep.
So, so you said you work in a bunch of different mediums. The one thing I wanted to ask you about was the illustration book that because you did that pretty early, right? When,
Yeah. So I actually just graduated college in 2008, and my friend from high school was the nanny of the family that wrote the book that actually lost their 2.5-year-old to a backyard pool drowning. So
right,
the father, Blake, wrote a book about never going near water without kind of the things that they didn't think about with Joshua. They didn't know that they could put him in swim lessons earlier than 2.5.
mhm,
And they didn't think about talking to him about certain things about never going near water without an adult. And so they wrote the book, and my friend actually recommended me for the illustrations. I never illustrated before. I
mhm,
had art at Venue Restaurant in Lincoln, and so they were familiar with my art, but it was abstract. And so we just met one day, and I did some quick sketches of little otters, and we kind of decided from there that, hey, we're going to move forward with this. And they were very involved with the process, and so we worked on that. It came out in 2009. And then we went to National Drowning Prevention Alliance was our first conference. And then from there, we met a rear admiral, a retired rear admiral in the Coast Guard that actually was a president of Rotary at his
oh,
club. And so he was able to start bringing it into Rotary clubs. And
mhm,
so now I think it's like 30,000, but like they every year Rotary clubs will do it for the class coming up. So they
right,
will read the book, talk about water safety. It's also literacy. But yeah, it kind of just
yeah,
enough, like people were, oh, we should try this, or some people get really excited about it. Some people are like, oh, but we're still going strong, and this is
mhm.
our, gosh, whatever year it is. It's
Is that
been
something you'd want to keep doing? I mean, for different books or,
so we actually are going to have a second book coming out. We need to finalize it. We just need to do it. But I prefer painting on canvas. I'm not a big like computer. Because I did it illustrating in Photoshop, or I took sketched it out, put it in Photoshop. I prefer more fine art of canvas. So I'm not seeking out to illustrate. I mean,
right?
if someone wants to pay me a lot of money, I'll make a
So
sacrifice.
when you do the illustrations, it was on graphics programs? That's what you,
Yeah, so it was Photoshop, which I took one
okay,
class in college, and then everything else I just kind of figured out with
yeah.
YouTube,
Oh,
you
that's
know.
cool. I guess I thought you were hand drawing them and
No, so I sketched them and put them in
yeah.
Photoshop, and then in Photoshop colored them, and then with
Mhm,
that you can move them around and we'll put
yeah,
words in. And
yeah,
but I'm not great at Photoshop, but I know enough to be dangerous to a certain extent,
yeah,
but I'm not.
yeah.
Don't ask me to like give a class on Photoshop, because I
Oh, yeah,
only know.
it's amazing what you can do now with animation and stuff in
Oh
graphic.
gosh, yeah.
I
And
mean,
that's not something that I'll learn enough to do something that is required, but
right.
it's not something that I fully enjoy. Like I'd rather do something on canvas or that type of, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just impressed with people that have that talent. My ex-wife, I told you, was an artist. She was very good, but she was a perfectionist and kind of, take her longer than, 'cause she had another friend who was actually, I told you my friend was Tom Osborne's brother-in-law. Well,
Hmm.
his wife was an artist too, and she was pretty successful. I mean, she did it full time like you're doing. And
Hmm.
she was always on her about you got to speed up. You got, you can't. It's not going to be perfect. And
Yeah. I,
so to get
oh,
things done, to
yeah.
get.
I think that there's a time when you have, because I'm also a perfectionist, but there's a time when I stop with a picture, it's something where I could hang it on my wall and I'd be happy looking at it. So
Right,
until that happens, then I won't stop. But I could keep messing with, I mean, even the stadium pictures behind me, I could keep messing with certain lines and oh, this highlight, like, but I just am like,
right,
okay, that's something where I'm happy with it. It can go on my wall, and I think other people would be happy with it. Then I stop, but I could definitely overwork things. And that's sometimes
right.
actually in college, one of my professors, because I can paint pretty fast, he had told me one time, hey, I'm going to give you 2 hours and just stop at 2 hours or 3 hours, because
Oh,
otherwise you start overworking it and then it
yeah.
can become, so
So
yeah.
the picture over your right shoulder is the one that I got to print.
The
Oh,
volleyball.
are there elements of abstract in that kind of painting? I mean,
Yeah. So the bottom part, which you can kind of see like down
yeah,
there, that that's kind of geometric abstract. So I really like the lighting on the foreground. So yeah, there's some abstract parts. And actually when you're painting pictures anyways, they start out abstract. So you're blocking in shapes and colors, and then eventually they become
right,
more defined, and then at the end is when you do the details. So really a lot of pictures start out abstract anyways.
right. So, because I don't really know, I should know this, but tell me exactly what abstract is when you think of, because what came to my mind when you said that, and I know this isn't correct, is had gone to the Louvre a few times, and I've gone to the Orangerie, I think is the Impressionist Museum in Paris. And I was thinking of Impressionist painting, not necessarily abstract, like Monet or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what came to my mind, but that's probably not
Well,
abstract.
there's like objective abstract and non-objective abstract. So you could have a portrait of somebody that's abstract, and that's called objective abstract, where you know that it's a portrait of someone or a horse, but it's not technically perfect. So that is something where you're abstracting a form, but then there's where the non-objective is, where it's shapes and colors, and then people kind of make up what they want from the story, which I really like non-objective, because you can, to me, I'm painting in colors, and then it's kind of almost musical, or it's it can evoke a feeling with how it's painted and also the colors. But
Right,
that's more of when you look at something and it's just colors and you don't see a form, is the non-objective. So I like both, but
right. So these paintings behind you, we talked about it a little bit last week, but are these off of a photograph that the university has?
yep.
Yeah.
So there's
Time.
so each one of them, like the one up here, the top one, that one I hired a guy that flew a drone, and he took a
Uh-huh.
photo. And so then the photo could not, it didn't have people in it because he couldn't take it during a game. And so I added in the people. So that one was from his
Oh,
photo, added in the people and the tailgates and did all that.
mm,
And then the one of the volleyball, that's from about 2 or 3 different university photos that I added in, where I really wanted it to say no place like Nebraska. And then I wanted the drone to be the 92, that like the 92,003. So those are all ones that weren't from the actual photo
mm,
that were very intentionally put in there for to capture that moment.
right,
And then the one of the 3 guys, that's from multiple photos and Photoshop, moving them around to see what the biggest impact of how I wanted to present the, kind of energy from them running, and have the Heisman guy.
right.
Like it's more of an energy type of painting.
So
So
do you ever sell these originals?
yeah, actually this one is not an original. That's a print. The original
Okay.
sold at the event that I had recently.
That might be hard. I mean, I can't do that, obviously, but I don't know if I'd have a hard time selling it. I think. I don't know if I could do to get rid of
Well,
it.
that's something that over time the live painting has helped, because I've been at some really big events like Cattleman's Ball of Nebraska that has 5,000 people,
Mhm.
and Farm Credit, where I painted in front of their executive board. And um, the live paintings put me in front of a lot of people that can spend money on originals. And
Right.
so um,
Well, and I say that I probably couldn't part with it, but you could do that again if you wanted to, I guess.
well, I
I
mean, I
mean,
wouldn't
maybe
want
not
to though.
exactly, but
Yeah,
like,
I just, when it comes to ones where the stadium, like these took a month off and on, or 2 months off and on to
mhm,
paint, and they're very intentional of what they were. I don't think I'd want to paint the same thing again.
right,
Unless, yeah, if someone wants to pay me like $50,000, I'll do
yeah,
whatever they want.
yeah,
But um, it's something where that's kind of what I did, and then I do sell the licensed prints from it so people can get that image.
right,
But to paint another original like that, I don't feel like it wouldn't be fun to me, because The first image is you're creating something that there's an excitement about it. The second time would kind of be like, oh, well, I need to make sure it looks like this. It's more of copying,
Yeah.
and that's not fun to me. So
Yeah, I do see. I remember, well, in every museum that I've been to, there's always artists sitting on a bench, drawing
yeah.
something that's up on the wall, um, which is pretty cool that they can do that. When I was a kid, I can draw two things, or I used to be able to draw two things when I was a little kid: a horse's head and
Hmm.
Fred Flintstone. Those are the only two things I could draw, and I couldn't draw a horse's body, so I never got beyond the head.
Yeah.
But so it made me have more of an appreciation, I guess, for how talented you have to be to do that. Oh, and I was at the volleyball match that you did the
Hmm.
painting of, and so that one meant a lot to me, even though I wasn't a player or
Hmm.
family member or anything. But I remember this happening, with the lights and
Hmm.
fireworks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
So
I was way on the other end, so I couldn't see the match
mhm.
fantastically. But
But just to be there and
yeah, it
see
was a cool environment.
you're a part of history. So
Yeah, and I went early. I went and watched at 4 o'clock. I went and watched Carney and
hmm.
Wayne play.
Yeah.
But I was worn out by the end of this, so I didn't stay for the concert. I left.
Yeah, that
But,
makes sense.
but I
But it
was
was
down by the
beautiful.
concert stage,
Yeah.
where I was sitting. So, but yeah, it was really cool to see them come out, and they got so lucky with the weather, and
Yeah.
and it worked out that day. It was warm, but it wasn't windy, and
Hmm.
that could have really made it strange. And my first thought was they should do it every year, but maybe you can't do that every year. That might.
I would say that's something where kind of like painting an original picture, like I was describing, you do that, it makes an impact on people and you're excited when you're doing it. But if you were to replicate something so special like that every time, it wouldn't have the same impact.
uh,
It would almost be redundant or, oh, I can go next. Like it think moments like that, like that's something that if you were a part of it, you're very lucky to be a part of it.
yeah.
I personally wasn't able to be there for it.
Mhm.
Um, but that's something where you don't want to redo that. Like
Yeah.
that's a historical one time. There's other things they can do, to
Yeah.
make things special. But
To me the coolest thing about going to those and going to Devaney tonight is how many little girls are there. And
yeah.
and those girls are so good. I mean, I'm talking about the team. They're
Yeah.
so good with those little kids. And I,
Hmm.
I was I think I might have told you 2 or 3 years ago when Lexi's son was playing here. I was at a match and there were a couple little girls sitting next to me that were probably 8 years old, 8 or 9, and they had signs for Lexi and they were cheering her. And I said, "Is Lexi your favorite player?" And they said, "No, she's our friend," because she had worked with them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I thought that's really cool. So I
They're
sent
like,
a
nope, she's
message.
our friend. She
Yeah,
plays volleyball, but she's our friend.
yeah. Well, and that was cool. So I sent Lexi a message, I think, on Instagram and told her that.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure she knows that, but it was just
Yeah.
something that I thought was really cool.
But
Because,
that is nice for them to know things like that,
yeah,
I think it matters for just the way they interact in the future to know the impact they're having. It matters. So,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, those girls are like the football team, they're celebrities here. I mean,
oh yeah. Yeah.
everybody knows who they are. And everyone I've met has been really friendly. And
Hmm.
so it's been cool to get to go watch them. Although every year it gets more expensive to go watch them because you can't get season tickets, and I've been
Hmm.
trying for a long time. So I don't want to keep you too long, but um, how has it changed the relationship with the university? How's it changed since NIL came in?
I got licensed NIL license and the picture that we're talking about with the players, that is something that's NIL licensed. So basically it hasn't changed a whole lot other than when I first got licensed in 2017, you could not paint players. You could only
Oh,
paint
okay.
the
Okay.
letter one or the year. And then the one of Sam and Brooke, the families were involved. And so I spoke with the licensing, like that was something that was okayed all the way around.
Hmm.
But for other pictures, you could just paint generic and you could paint coaches because they were paid by the university.
Oh,
So
okay.
since then, now you can paint players. They get a percentage of
Right.
when you sell a picture, which makes sense because they're in the picture and they're
So do you
selling the
know,
pictures.
so do you no longer have to ask permission to put them in? You just have to pay them a percentage?
Yep. So you get it approved by the university. And so each picture that's licensed is approved by first it's approved by kind of the national, and then it's approved locally by the University of Nebraska.
Right.
And I think the players all are need to be registered with NIL to make sure that they are okay with, I mean, they
Mhm.
just, to get paid if someone uses their likeness.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot other than, yeah, I have you upload to the university, and then you also upload to another brand comply, which is the NIL, that handles all that. So
Right.
that's kind of a whole separate thing, but it's definitely worth it to be able to paint the players. So
Yeah. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of the transfer portal, but I think NIL is a great thing for them because I feel like a lot of those kids might finish school because they're not broke and they don't,
yeah, well, I knew a kid that was at a university, and he was one of the really good football players. And he would call home and ask for $100 for the weekend when his pictures was everywhere on campus. Like they were using his image everywhere.
yeah,
And he had to ask for $100 to go out on the weekend. So
yeah,
that doesn't make sense to me when you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
really,
I've always kind of felt that way. I remember a story of Tiger Woods when he was in college at Stanford. Um, Arnold Palmer took him to lunch and he got a letter from the NCAA saying that that was an NCAA violation and Tiger had to pay Arnold back for
mm-hmm.
lunch, which I thought
Yeah.
that's stupid.
Yeah.
And there's other things like that. I remember one of his instructors had he sent Tiger a camera when he was in college so that he could film swings and send it to him, and
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't let him do that unless he donated it. So he donated cameras to every every player on the team,
Yeah.
just to get around that. So that it gets rid of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like I mean, ideal world. I'd love to start this show with Katy Perry's Roar song, because it's all about women. But I might get in trouble for that. Um,
I know it's
or it'd be very expensive if I didn't get in trouble. So,
yeah.
but I didn't know if it worked the same way. Like if I'm assuming when someone uses a song like that, that they owe the royalties, but they don't necessarily have to ask permission. They just have to pay for it.
Well,
Is
I
that?
know when I use songs on the reels that I post on Instagram and Facebook,
Mhm.
it's something where it'll pop up on my screen that certain countries don't allow the license of, but I'm pretty sure that the artist is probably getting paid when they use it. I don't know, but it wouldn't let me use it if it wasn't okay. So I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever. We'll just
Yeah.
put it on here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to come up with some kind of a theme song thing to start with, but I'm still kind of learning how to do this. So this is
Yeah.
something that I wanted to do for a long time, and finally everything I've been reading and researching just says start putting stuff up there and figure it out.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
where I am, and that's where I am with Instagram and stuff too. Um, so let me real quick. How do people find your gallery or find your? I'm going to put your social media stuff and your links up on my page, but how would they find you if they wanted to contact you about getting a print or something?
Yeah, so I do paint at a gallery downtown Elkhorn. So it's Main Street Studios and Art Gallery, and it's open every day but Sunday. And so 10 to 6, and then Friday and Saturday till 7, 10 to 7. So that's a place where you can see original art, like you can see the paintings behind me in person. And I also have art for sale here. And then you can also, on my website, you can order prints on there. It's just my name, ashleyspitsnogle.com. And then on a lot of the social media, like my art page on Facebook, on X, and somewhat of Instagram and somewhat of LinkedIn, I do a lot of the time-lapse videos or the video process of the painting, so you can see more on there. Those are easier to update in real time than on my website. So more of the the
But
painting and all that is on those.
the time lapse thing's hard to do.
They, they're not hard, but you have to always set up a camera, and then you have to make sure you have time where you can paint for a while. And then I don't always like to have the exact same uh
Angle.
yeah, so then I'll change it. And it's not hard to do. I would say when you start putting the videos together to make it interesting, that is what is very time consuming, because you have to know when to cut it off to where, okay, that's enough of this. Like you want to have video of things that are actually changing in the painting and not just the same
Right.
thing. That'd be like watching
Yeah.
paint dry, literally.
No,
Uh,
I've gone on your site dozens of times just to watch those on LinkedIn because they're just cool to look at.
and I need LinkedIn's the one that I need to be better about posting on there, but
Yeah.
I, you know,
I
I'm a
like,
little bit quick more on my art page on Facebook, but LinkedIn
yeah.
is, yeah,
And I have not been to the Facebook page. I'll try to do that. I'm
yeah.
not good
There's
about
more videos on there actually, I think, on the art page.
I'm not good about LinkedIn either. And in a way, I don't know, I hope LinkedIn people aren't watching this, but in a way, I'm a little disappointed with LinkedIn because when I signed up, I was still full-time professor. And
Hmm.
oh, but I get emails from them all the time saying, this job's open, are you interested? And a lot of times it's something I'm not even remotely qualified for, so I don't know what their screening mechanism is, but
Yeah, I get
it feels
messages a
like
lot
it's more
too.
of a shotgun approach than you know,
Yeah, like a sponsored message.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me, if you don't mind spending a couple more minutes, I usually try to finish this with like some fun questions just to get a reaction to. I
Hmm.
I talked to a volleyball coach last week and I had 6 questions, so we called it 6 rotations.
Yeah.
But uh, but these are the questions, and you can just throw something off the top of your head. You don't have to. And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. We can move
I'll
on.
just do a buzz sound, buzz.
Yeah, yeah. First one is if you could spend a day with anybody, living or dead, who would you spend that day with?
Oh man, I see people ask that question all the time. And I really honestly, I
Yeah,
don't know, because there's a lot of people that I would like to be around, but also I don't know, maybe like
yeah,
a family member, like my grandma.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I
If
get I get that a lot too. Like I
you know,
want to go play golf with my grandpa or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then
So my
I'm kind of
cat.
like you. I'm kind of like you. I was a tennis player, and when I started this, my sort of dream guest, if I could pick anybody in the world, is Billie Jean King because
Hmm.
she did so much for not just women's sports, but just women in general.
General,
She
right?
would be on the list. I happened to see Stephen Hawking one day in a pub when I was in Cambridge. He would
Oh,
definitely be on the list, but and I didn't bother him. He was eating lunch. I just,
yeah,
I just fanboyed a little bit,
yeah. Just kind of. Oh, that's a
yeah,
cool memory.
yeah. So second one says if you could be any animal, what would you pick?
Horse.
Horse? It's weird. This is the seventh episode, and I think that's the third or fourth horse.
Well, okay, horses are my absolute favorite.
Mhm.
When I was young, I used to draw horses and mermaids, and that was filled up. Everybody's fridge was filled with mermaids and horses. I don't do mermaids as much anymore,
Yeah.
but I do still paint horses. And there's something, I'm around them once a week, and there's something very special and majestic about them, and almost
Mhm.
ethereal, or whatever that word is. Their calmness, and they're very intelligent, and I don't know, I would love to be a horse just running free,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to. I do want to talk to you about that too, because you said your friend has a horse therapy place.
Yeah,
And
well, an organization.
okay, because
Yep.
I'd love to talk to her. I've had two people on already that have one in Kansas City, south of Kansas City. They have,
Mhm.
I think they said, I want to say they said they had like a dozen horses or something and they invite. It's free, it's donations
Mhm.
basically. But they've had a lot of like PTSD, people
Mm-hmm.
and autistic kids, and
Yep.
just things to because animals are so good at sort of sensing what people feel. And
Yep.
I've never really been around horses much. I've always had dogs and cats, and
Yeah.
I told them this too. If I'm around somebody and a dog doesn't trust them, then I don't trust them. I feel like dogs have pretty good instincts, and
Yeah.
so I yeah, I think I'd probably choose a dog just for that reason because I've been around them all the time. But
But what kind of dog?
well, I had a Doberman, which I was a little reluctant to get at first because you hear all these, same with pit bulls, they kind of have a bad reputation. That was the nicest dog I've ever had. And she
Mm-hmm.
lived to be 15, so which is
Mm-hmm.
really long for a Doberman. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to name her Dobie-Wan Kenobi, but my ex-wife wouldn't go for that. So we named her Sarah. But
Oh,
so it's
that's quite
close,
the
I guess.
opposite.
Yeah. Next one says if you could witness a historical event, what would you pick?
The historical event. Mm, hmm. I think I would like to go to this volleyball game that everybody got to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really
It's on
cool.
the top of my head right now. I wasn't able to
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. I
Yeah, that's just on the top of my head right now.
right. I think about that question too, and geez, there's so many to pick from. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to do that. And a lot of them I, sort of watched on TV and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
those are more sporting events kind of things too.
Yeah.
One person asked me, do I get to influence it? And I thought, no, I want you to go back.
Oh, the historical event. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
I
Because
don't know
that
if I want
changes
you
the
doing
whole
that.
question. Yeah.
Okay, next one is what's the most interesting place you've ever visited or would like to visit?
I would say the most interesting place that I've have visited so far, there's two. So I recently visited Bosnia with one of my really good friends. Her family's from there, and they came
Mhm.
over here during the war. And they took me to Sarajevo, which is where they're originally from. Um, and that was extremely neat to be there with them and their family, and also very eerie because it's a beautiful, beautiful country, and knowing that that wasn't that long ago, how people treated each other. Um, but that was a very interesting place. And then I also visited Cambodia years ago with my aunt, and that was another place where I don't know if that would have been a place where I would have just picked, but it left a lasting impact. The people there that also went through a genocide and are very, very genuine and happy people and caring, and that was another place that I uh yeah, that left an impact on me for sure. But
Yeah,
then I also like Italy, where I just can go do art and have pasta and drink wine, and that's a whole different kind of
yeah, those kinds of things. I used to take students to London every spring for 10 years when I was in Shadron, and St. Andrews is probably my favorite place to visit
mm.
as
And I
a
haven't been there. That's not
as
on,
a
I haven't
golfer.
been there
But one of the things that sort of had the impact on me, like you were talking about, was the last day of our trip, we would always take them to an American cemetery that's in England.
yet.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids, when we would tell them that's where we were going, we're all kind of like, we don't want to do that. But once they got there, um, it had an impact on them. And I even had one student find a relative in there
Mm-hmm.
that she wasn't even aware of, just
Mm-hmm.
happened to walk by it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
but those kinds of things, yeah, make you think a little bit. So, how about
Absolutely.
if you have to eat one food every day for the rest of your life? Not that's the only thing you can eat, but if you had to eat one thing every day, do you have a favorite food?
Well, I love soup of any kind, so I just have soup.
Yeah, yeah,
It's getting into soup season, so I've made a
yeah,
lot of soup lately.
yeah.
I'm a big soup
Last
person.
last one, and if you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be?
A rumor about myself.
Hmm.
Uh, oh gosh. That she played in the WNBA.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were a basketball player.
Yeah.
What position did you play at Dome?
So I was a 5'9" post player
Oh
in
wow.
college. So that was I had really bony elbows, so that worked to my advantage, and I was really good at boxing out low. So, um, but yeah, yeah,
I
that's the rumor. I would be, Ashley played WNBA. She's
yeah.
a 5'9" post player that played WNBA.
Yeah, I think mine would be that I won Wimbledon. Oh,
That what?
that I won Wimbledon, the
Oh,
tennis. But
see, we both went to sports.
yeah, but I taught for quite a while at Concordia.
You need to unlock your
Their
iPhone
women's
first.
Sorry, my
their oh that's okay. Their women's basketball program's been really good for a while, and so I go to quite a few of their games just because I still have some students or former students that are playing.
Mhm.
But well, I'll let you go. I know you're pretty busy, but thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And I will come up when you get that other print.
Which app do you want to open?
And
I
then
don't know why my phone is listening.
Something went wrong.
Do not listen to me.
yeah, my phone did that one day. I was teaching a statistics class, and I had a problem written up on the board, and I turned around and said, "What's the answer?" And my phone said, "I'm working on it." And my phone was sitting on the table.
My phone is way over there, and for some reason
Yeah.
it's listening and asking. Like
Yeah.
it's annoying. I
Yeah.
can touch it, so it's weird.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to put this up later today, so it'll be up on YouTube later
Okay.
today. I appreciate
you.
it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and I look forward to watching myself.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, it's like the worst thing when you listen to yourself and watch
Yeah.
yourself. Ew,
Yeah.
what's
Well,
that?
I'll keep in touch. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, and I'll let you know when the print's ready, and we'll get that figured
Okay.
out. But it'll be
Okay.
soon. So
Thank you.
okay, bye-bye.
Bye.